Caitlin Clark isn't just a rookie. She's the spark that reignited women's basketball. Her record-shattering college career, her fearless attitude, and her ability to pack arenas made her the biggest name the WNBA has seen in decades. She was supposed to be the league's golden ticket, the face of a new era. But instead of being celebrated, Caitlin Clark has found herself in the middle of something much darker. Reports claim that she uncovered what many are calling the biggest scandal in WNBA history. And instead of addressing the problem, the league allegedly turned on her, punishing its brightest star to protect its own secrets. Why would the WNBA silence the very player bringing them unprecedented attention? What exactly did Caitlin expose? And how deep does this go? Caitlin Clark, from phenom to prodigy. Before we can understand the controversy, we need to understand Caitlin Clark herself. At Iowa, Caitlin wasn't just good. She was revolutionary. She broke NCAA records, drew millions of viewers to women's basketball broadcasts, and brought in sellout crowds wherever she played. She played with swagger, launching threes from NBA range, making dazzling assists, and refusing to back down from anyone. By the time she entered the WNBA draft, she wasn't just an athlete. She was a phenomenon. Ticket sales surged the moment her name was called. The Indiana Fever, her new team, went from relative obscurity to must-see basketball. TV ratings spiked. Merchandise sales skyrocketed. Caitlin Clark had turned women's basketball into primetime entertainment. But with that fame came pressure. Every move she made was scrutinized. Some veterans resented the attention she received. Others worried the league was putting too much weight on her shoulders. The first red flags. It didn't take long for Caitlin to notice that things weren't adding up. Games she played in drew massive crowds and ratings, yet she heard whispers that revenue distribution wasn't being handled fairly. Sponsors that publicly expressed interest in Caitlin seemed to end up tied to other markets or players. And when it came to scheduling, her team seemed to get the short end of the stick, exhausting travel schedules while other franchises had noticeably lighter loads. At first, Caitlin chalked it up to rookie growing pains. After all, every league has politics. But the more she saw, the harder it became to ignore. Even officiating felt questionable. Calls against Caitlin piled up in suspicious ways. Fans on social media noticed too, compiling clips of questionable fouls and missed calls. Was it just bad luck? Or something bigger? The scandal unearthed. So what exactly did Caitlin Clark uncover? According to reports and speculation spreading online, Caitlin discovered a troubling pattern of favoritism and financial manipulation inside the league. The WNBA, desperate to grow its brand, was allegedly prioritizing certain markets, teams, and stars over others, regardless of fairness or competitive balance. One shocking detail: sponsorship deals weren't being evenly distributed. Instead, insiders claim money was being funneled toward select franchises while others, even those bringing in record-breaking ratings like Indiana, were overlooked. Then there were whispers about game schedules being intentionally structured to benefit specific teams, ensuring they had better rest and travel conditions compared to others. For athletes competing at the highest level, even small advantages can mean everything. Speaking out, most rookies would have kept their heads down. Caitlin Clark did the opposite. She began raising questions publicly and privately. In interviews, she hinted at bigger issues within the league. In team meetings, she asked about revenue fairness and scheduling. And behind closed doors, reports claim she confronted league officials directly. This was a bold move. The WNBA had marketed Caitlin as the league's savior, but now, she was openly challenging the very system that had built her spotlight. Fans picked up on her comments immediately. Social media buzzed with speculation. What was Caitlin hinting at? Why was she being so cryptic? For every subtle word she dropped, thousands of theories emerged online. Punishment begins. The response was swift and subtle. Suddenly, Caitlin's access to media began shrinking. Press conferences that once centered on her became shorter, more controlled. Promotional campaigns that had prominently featured her were quietly re-edited or scrapped. Then came the on-court consequences. Fans began noticing questionable officiating ramping up during Caitlin's games. Phantom fouls, missed calls, and inconsistent whistleblowing became so frequent that entire compilation videos started trending online. Behind the scenes, whispers of fines and warnings circulated. Caitlyn was reportedly told to focus on basketball rather than league politics. To many, this sounded less like advice and more like a threat. Fans fight back. The punishment didn't push fans away. It rallied them closer to Caitlyn. Almost overnight, hashtags like #StandWithCaitlyn and #LetHerPlay started trending. Supporters flooded the WNBA's social pages with demands for answers. Online forums and podcasts dissected every detail of her situation, turning Caitlyn's fight into a movement. Merchandise sales tied to Clark only grew stronger. Indiana Fever games sold out faster than ever, with fans showing up in droves to prove their loyalty. Even rival team arenas saw massive turnouts whenever Caitlyn was in town. The more the league seemed to pull back her spotlight, the brighter it shined through her fanbase. Divided locker rooms. While fans rallied behind Caitlyn, the atmosphere inside the league was far more complicated. Some players openly supported her, praising her courage and confirming that they too had noticed issues with fairness and favoritism. These allies gave Caitlyn credibility. After all, if veterans were backing her up, her claims couldn't just be dismissed as rookie frustration. But not everyone was in her corner. Some veterans bristled at Caitlyn's boldness, accusing her of disrespecting the league. A few suggested she was only stirring the pot because she didn't like how she was being officiated. Others pointed out the irony. Caitlyn was benefiting from massive attention and endorsement deals, yet she was criticizing the very league that gave her a platform. The divide created tension across locker rooms and rivalries. Games against Caitlyn weren't just about basketball anymore. They became symbolic battles over whether her voice should be celebrated or silenced. The media tug-of-war. The media's role in Caitlyn Clark's scandal was just as messy as the league's. Mainstream outlets covered the story cautiously. Headlines used phrases like alleged unfair treatment or Caitlyn Clark controversy, careful not to point fingers directly at the WNBA. Some fans suspected the league was quietly influencing coverage, given its close ties to certain networks. But independent journalists and podcasters had no such restrictions. They dove deep, analyzing clips, interviewing insiders, and publishing stories that mainstream outlets tiptoed around. These platforms amplified Caitlyn's voice and kept the scandal alive in the public eye. Then came the curious case of censorship. Fans noticed that certain clips of Caitlyn hinting at problems mysteriously disappeared from official WNBA accounts. Some interviews ended abruptly when she veered into controversial topics. Coincidence? Or deliberate silencing? Caitlyn's career at a crossroads. So where does all this leave Caitlyn Clark? On one hand, her career has never been bigger. She's the most talked about player in the WNBA. Her games draw record audiences, and her endorsements keep stacking up. In terms of visibility, Caitlyn is untouchable. On the other hand, the league's resistance poses real challenges. If scheduling, officiating, and promotions continue to work against her, it could slow her growth as a player. And the locker room divides could leave her isolated, making it harder to build the kind of chemistry every team needs to win championships. But Caitlyn isn't powerless. Her fan base, her marketability, and her international recognition give her leverage no rookie has ever had. If she chooses to double down, she could push for change not just in the WNBA, but in women's sports as a whole. What happens next? The Caitlyn Clark scandal leaves the WNBA with two possible futures. Option 1. They continue to punish and silence her, protecting the system at all costs. But doing so risks alienating fans, sponsors, and the very star driving their growth. It could damage the league's credibility beyond repair. Option 2. They embrace reform. They acknowledge Caitlyn's concerns, commit to fairness and transparency, and prove they can evolve. It would be uncomfortable, but it could set the WNBA on a path to long-term success and legitimacy. As for Caitlyn, her story is still being written. Whether she's punished further, ignored, or finally celebrated, one thing is clear. She has already forced a conversation the league can't avoid.